What's up, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. For those of you who are coming back to watch this all over again, welcome in. Today I've got finish grinding to do. Now, 3 of these blades are already finished ground. They're done. They've just been run to 120 because they're going to be Gen 3s, getting Cerakoted. I've got 2 Ramblers and a Mustang. Everything I have here today is Nitro B. But I've still got 7 more blades that I got to get through. So let's do it. Got a Signature Series blade. This one's pretty cool. What's up, Steven? What's up, Blue? Alright. We're gonna roll. Got a 220 on surface grinding time. The first of a new model. Tribute. Saber Grind tribute. What's up, Carolina Rose? What's up, Dark Shot? What's up, Wallace? How you doing, sir? Adventure. Revelation and 8-inch. Alright. Now we got to do 400 grit. Belt swap. Back to that Revelation. Huh. 400 grit. That's as far as we're going to take the sides. I just had a bolt drop out of this thing. I don't know where it came from, but I'm going to have to find it. I just had a bolt drop out of my surface grinder attachment. That's new. Let's see. Oh, I see. I wonder why that one specifically came up. It's one of these bolts that bolt the magnet chuck onto this little mount. Alright, let me put that back on. Okay. Find my Allen. That's not good. Okay. Well, it's not there. I'm coming. This is the Alright. Sitting there. The rest of them are, they seem tight anyway. Oh, I know. They'll have the right Allen key. Keep going. We'll deal with those loose bolts later. I think it's just that one. What's up, everybody? If you're new in here, I'm Jacob with Very Good Knife Company. Welcome in. Happy to have you. So, I'm going to extend the legs on my tripod and shake you guys around for just a second. Because I'm done with surface grinding. Here we go. Last one. All right, done making you sick. Let's go back to grinding. Now I only have 2 hollow grinds, so I'll just go ahead and knock those out. So for hollow grinds, I have this Signature series, and I have a Hornet. This guy is going to be a Gen 2. It's going to get burlap micarta and Then I've got a Mustang that got hollow ground, but this one's already been finished to a 120 grit. That's as far as it's going to go because it's going to get blasted and Cerakoted when it's done with its handles. Thank you, sir. It is a nice one. It's made by Beaumont Metalworks. It's a pretty good attachment. Although in this configuration that I have, a non-horizontal grinder, it'll wear you out. Here we go. One side. 120 finish on the bevels. I like how the swedge is all the way up here into that dimping patch. Pretty nice. One more on this set. Hornet. Tighten that edge up. Push down. One side. That's all for the 120 hollow grinds. There's a Hornet. I did the shoulder cuts, the chamfers, and the swedges. Hornets, wasps, mustangs. Lots of my knives have swedges, but that's Hornet. And then the signature series. I did spend a good little bit more time on this one. So I was working mainly on the plunge lines down here to get them nice and pretty. Now we gotta go, we're gonna step our speed down, remove this belt and put a 220 belt on. Brighten my edge up so I can see it. See what I'm talking about? $220 for those bevels. One more. Cover. $220 for the Hornet. One more belt. Now we go to, dang it, where'd it go? Oh, good Lord. My belt's all tangled up. Now we go to a 400 grit. One side in 400, nice and pretty. That one is thin. But evenly thin too. Real nice. Nice looking plunge. Nice looking grinds. This will be a nice signature series. Do those sledges. Real nice. even them up. Got a little deeper than I wanted to with that one. Alright, nothing wrong with that. Very nice. No little bumps. Good clean lines. Even on both sides. Pretty sweet. Good looking blade. Alright, hit this Hornet. Go. Alright, that's it for the hollow grinds. Now we'll do the flat grinds. What's up, Zach? You see how much faster that Hornet went than this one? It's because this is a signature series and I sell them for more because I spend more time doing them. And I put more love into them. But also things that don't have a pattern that I'm not repeating over and over and over again, they always take longer. Always. Right now, I'm going to put a 120 on this platen grinder here. We'll do all our flat grinds. Speed off just a little. Here we go. Flat grind time. Got 120 on a Heritage. Pretty sweet. Got it from the Venture. Revelation. Revelation. What's up, John? How's it going, bud? Well, that's right. Thank you, Zach, for sending me that passage yesterday. I'm so in my zone, I didn't even think about it. I got it yesterday. Fine. Oh yeah, just show you the swedges on that Tribute with the saber grind instead of a full flat. What's up, Zach? Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. All right. Next, 220 and then 400. Drop that speedway down. Grab a couple new belts. Running low on the 400. Running low on all of them, just about. Except for 60 grit. All right. That. Okay. Gotcha. No longer exists. Probably could be. Revelation it is. My platen keeps leaving little weird lines. That tells me that there's a bunch of belt backing that's built up on the platen. See all that junk that I'm scraping off is the backing of the belts that gets melted to it. What it does, it'll end up leaving little ridges. Little phantom lines. That's what I was showing you. And you can work around it, but then when you start doing something a little bit more intricate like the Revelation with the sweep and plunge line, the faded plunge line, you kind of need that knot to be there. Alright. Nice and clean. Got a mask tickling my nose now. There's the Revelation. Nice and pretty. Now we'll switch to a 400. Finish them up. Go even slower. I'm going to start with the Revelation. Very nice. See there? Super nice. The other side. All right. Clean, clean. Heritage. And Adventure. And the Adventure, I'm not really trying to get it super perfectly clean. I'm going to get that little junk out right there. But this was ended up bead blasted. That's the finish requested on this one. So that'll do for this guy. Alright, grab our flat saber ground tribute. Yeah. Very clean. One more, we will do sledges and the chamfer on any that it applies to. And then we're going to step back over to the hollow grinding wheel for just a minute. There we go. Do our sledges on these tributes. One. And two. Nice pretty sledges. One. Two. Very nice. Now, going to get the chamfer, shoulder chamfers on the Revelation, and this other knife over here too. There we go. Just like that. Adventure. There we go. Heritage. That one's gone. That one's not good, though. That's it. Alright, now I'm going to slide back over here to this grinder to do the swedge on this Revelation. It's a pretty long and deep clip point, and it's hard to get the shape that I want on a flat plate, so I like the round wheel for those swedges, because I don't do them in this manner, I do them this manner. Just like that. There we go. And when I sketched this knife up, I originally put in a swedge. Looking at it now, I feel like it would really benefit from having one, but I'm not entirely sure that this is the stock that I want to go with. This is a prototype. I'm just going to go ahead and swedge it anyway, just to see. Yeah, definitely getting a swedge. Yep, I dig it. It's getting a swedge. That looks really, really, really nice, and added a lot of accent and character to the knife that I felt like it would need. For the most part, trailing points are pretty, well, without little accents here and there, they're pretty boring. I love trailing points, especially nice curvy ones. Wow. Revelation. Take it to 400, what we just did. So the map's fine, and the wedges. Very nice. Nice swedges. Same thing with this Heritage. perfection. Very nice. Added a little character to the spine, and definitely from the profile, I love the way it makes it look even more of an upsweep. Nice. All right, that is all for the finish grinding now. Just take these over and degauss them before I forget. Degaussing is just demagnetization. And because these were on the magnet chuck, what's up 1931 Leatherworks? Because these were all on the magnet chuck for the surface grinder, they are magnetized. And you can't tell any difference in appearance. Fun fact, when you do that and touch it to the magnet or to the degausser, it'll remagnetize it. So you gotta hold it above it. I've just got my fingers down so it can't go past my fingers. Anyway, this the magnetization isn't usually a problem until you go to sharpen, at which point all the little microfine particles of steel that you're sharpening off will then stick to the edge and you can't see the burr. So this revelation is a bit of a special request. The blade shape, nothing's been changed. The requests include 1/8 inch stock instead of the 5/32. Customer requested jimping, so I put him some thumb jimping and a lanyard hole. Other than that, it's just a normal revelation. It's not the first 1/8 inch. I've made several 1/8 inch revelations. In fact, the piece of steel that I used for that I bought just for 1/8 inch revelations because somebody requested one. So I bought a couple pieces of that steel because it'll fit not only the revelations but the adventures, traditions, and several other things. But I did do an adventure and a tradition in 1/8 inch. I actually did 2 traditions in 1/8 inch. So I did one for a customer. I drilled it a certain way, and then I had already had the blade into the kiln, and I kind of jumped the gun, but then he requested different screws for a different drill size, so I just made him another, and then I ended up with an extra tradition, an 1/8 inch, which got grip tech. That one sold a few weeks ago, which there is still some grip tech in the store too, Mustangs, and I think that's all, just Mustangs. There might be a Hornet or two. That's what I just showed you, was a Hornet. But this knife will be in the store before too long. This particular one. This is Signature Series. This would be number 15. Signature Series number 15. It is going to be a banger. It's kind of, yeah, it doesn't turn carbon steel into stainless steel. That's right. It's, yeah, it's a degausser. Yes. Demagnetizer. That's all I'm doing. Zach's referencing, something that I said several live streams ago. Well, it was a few weeks ago now. But I was talking about the difference between the magnetic qualities of Nitro V, which is what I'm doing. Listen. You hear that? That amount of buzz. Here's an 80 CRV2 blade. while the blade is slightly bigger, the 80CRB2 is containing more iron content, therefore more magnetic and makes a louder buzz than the stainless steel. That's all I was referencing to. But somebody blew it out of proportion. So I made a little joke about it. This Mustang and those two Ramblers that I just did, these guys are only finished to 120, so you can see that finish. It's clean, it's not bad, but these guys are going to get blasted and Cerakoted. That's why I want them rough. As opposed to the 400 finish, they are definitely not even close in terms of like shiny and uniformity. But all the grind lines are nice and crisp and the same. They're just going to get turned into Generation 3 blasted and Cerakoted. This one's going to get something cool. I'll show you what he wants. So this guy wants black with green liners on the left side and blue liners on the right side. So he wants a Joker liner. That's pretty cool. Not Joker as in like the movie franchise, Batman Joker. We call that a Joker when you put two different handle material colors or different handle materials on each side of a knife. So they're all demagnetized now. I'm going to lay them out. And even though they're Nitro V stainless, I'm still going to put some oil on them because little particles of dust, what may be left on them, can still rust on their surface and still stain the stainless. Now these guys will all get handles tomorrow. And I'll go ahead and show you, before I oil it up, I'll show you this new model and talk about it for a second. So this is going to be a new model dropping within the next few weeks. I have some steel for them, and I'm not entirely positive that I want to go with the 5/32 stock. I'm a little bit more convinced that I do want to go with that now that I actually have a blade in my hands. And not just a sketch of one. I've made tons and tons of trailing point knives. I just haven't done any models of trailing point knives. I can turn it off. It is an option. But all it does is pretty much just AI, which there's no defeating that anymore. But it just takes a highlight of the live stream. It is up to me to publish it live, but it is cut. As soon as I end this live stream, there'll be a live highlight sent to me on the YouTube videos thing, and it'll be up to me to publish that to public. Anyway, after having seen the Heritage blade on the 5/32 stock, the full flat grind, beautiful trailing point, and it is very much so a trailing point. It comes well beyond its spine, but it has a lot of belly and a lot of curve. This is a hunting knife, a skinning knife. That's exactly what it was made for. The name Heritage is indicative of something that you intend to inherit or pass down to someone else to inherit. And things like a hunting knife make a lot of sense for that. And it follows the same line as my Tradition, which is another hunting knife. This guy is in the same stock, 5/32. This is just the pattern for the Tradition. But the handles on these are exactly identical. It's got the Tradition handle, exactly the same. And you can see the blades are even similar as well, where the Tradition has a drop point similar to a Nest Muck, and I do hollow grind the Tradition. I'm not saying that this will take its place. I'm just putting it in that same kind of line. Yes, it is. I saw that. Yep, we're going to talk about that soon. Probably be a minute before I get around to that design, because I've got Bushcraft, Georgia Bushcraft coming up, and that's about to put a wedge in everything that I'm doing. So this one, the Heritage, I'm going to do a run of in, I'll show you. I'm going to do a run of the Heritage in the Blaze Orange Grip Tech. I've got a big sheet of this, and I ripped this off of it the other day ago, or what, the other week ago. The days have just turned into weeks now. Weeks or days. That's how it feels. But I cut this off during the Grip Tech run, thinking I might do some of that, and I decided to save all of it because I wanted to do some new Heritage in the Grip Tech. But I was going to do a video yesterday. I actually did do a video yesterday. I took it twice. Spent half an hour doing it and never published it, never posted it. That's the Heritage sketch. That's where it came from, derived from. And that's what it's going to be. So that'll be cool. It'll be a hell of a skinning knife. And a nice knife to pass down to your kids and grandkids and get passed through the family as Dad's old hunting knife. Anyway, I'm going to drop some oil on these guys, and then I've got a couple other things that I've got to do. I'm not going to do too much more grinding this week, though, because I'm about out of belts, and I'm just going to take it easy. I've got all my orders here. All but Zach's, and I haven't started on yours, Zach, because I don't have any of the clear Cerakote, and there's several other things that I'm missing for all those. So, plus they're ADCRV2; those usually go really fast. Hey, we hit 100 likes. Thanks, guys. Hey, if you're into this content, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and it'll let you know when I'm going live again. And I show all kinds of cool stuff. Like, let's talk about this guy for a second. This guy's cool. This so this is a plate quenching press, and it came from Contender Machine Works. I actually got to see these guys at Blade Show and play with this. I looked at several presses over the years that people have made, and I absolutely do not like the Vice style presses, even though that's what I've been using, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's all right, but it's a pain in the neck, to be honest, especially when you compare it to something like this. So this thing's pretty cool. It's on springs, the top and bottom plate, and you can see it moves up and down, and it binds up easy if you try and push on it from the ends, but when you push on it in the middle, it's really smooth. So it's on these posts. These bolts have got a long, straight, and smooth cut on them. And then we've got some bushings on the inside. The first thing I did was pull this whole thing apart and clean it. And the cam right here was actually, the whole thing has been either Parkerized or powder coated or Cerakoted or something. It's black. Maybe it's just paint. But the cams, I'm assuming all of this was cut out by water jet. It looks more like water jet, not plasma. It's very clean, but they weren't as clean as I would have liked them, I guess, because I took the cam and I actually hit the faces of the cam with a 400 grit belt to clean and smooth that up. Now that kind of worked and kind of didn't, because when you get really smooth, that's when you can start binding up on steels and whatnot. Or if you leave your contact points rough, then they won't have too much friction. Thing is, these rough edges would eventually grind into this sacrificial plate here, which is not the biggest deal, but I don't know, I just felt like it could use a little bit of improvement, and I gave it that. For what you pay for this is definitely not worth complaining about. This thing is really nice, and I like every bit of it. But if you have the skills and the machines to improve it slightly, then there's no reason that you shouldn't do so. But this thing is really cool in that these plates, unlike these old quenching plates that I have, these guys are just 1.25 inch aluminum plates. They're about 13.5 inches by about 7 inches, 6 3/4, something like that. These plates are only 1 inch, and they're 6 inches wide or 18 inches long, and so I can put a bigger knife in there. But these, being a little thinner, they're made to heat up a little faster and cool off a little faster because they are water cooled. So this center plate right here is screwed on with a bunch of tiny little machine screws, tapered head machine screws, and inside of this, this is just a cap put on with probably some RTV silicone. There is a channel milled in here for water on the top and the bottom plate. That's pretty cool because when I'm plate quenching, I can fit more blades in the kiln than I can fit in the plate at a time, unless they are like wasps. But that means that I'll usually have to do 2 quenches, and I really don't like doing any more than 2 because these plates will get hot enough that I can't use them anymore. I'll have to let them cool down. Now I do have over here in the freezer, the way I've been cooling my old plates in order to get another quench, a good even consistent quench, is I keep these aluminum plates right here in the freezer in the old shop fridge. But those are more 1.25 inch aluminum plates. So I would take the aluminum, the cold plates, and put them in between these plates, and all of them would level out. So the cold would leach into the hot plates, and the hot plates, the heat would leach into cold. They'll try and level out. Aluminum is massively heat conductive, thermal conductive, and electric conductive. And that's why we use aluminum to do our quenching. But the cool thing about this one is that water feature. So you see those lines there. This one feeds in here, and this one is the return. These go into a bucket, which is, put you down there. That bucket right there is full of water, about that far from the top, and these lines go into the bucket. I've got a 700 gallon per hour pump in there, and when I hit the button on the pump, it'll fill these plates with water, and it'll run continuously as long as I want it to. But the point of this is to be able to do more quenching and not have to worry about overheating on your plates and whatnot. So I was only able to get 2 quenches on these, even with the cold plates, and then they were so hot that I had to just wait a few hours, or either that or unbolt them. So these are bolted in, and I did that for a while, but one of the bolts is kind of cross-threaded in there right now. It's easy to do in aluminum, and it's not going to last forever if I keep doing that. It's an inefficient system. This right here is way more efficient. But it's nice. And I don't have to sit there and screw the thing down and also use a clamp for this guy, because the actual pressing action is only happening back here on this back. It's less than half of the plate. I could get a narrower plate, but then I'm not going to be able to put as many in there as I need to be efficient, right? So I always use this clamp, and And I'm still going to use these plates when I'm doing big runs and stuff. I'm definitely still going to use these plates. But this works. It's just a Wilton vise. You stick your blades in here and then you'll clamp it down. What'll happen is the vise will clamp, and this section of the plates up front will expand the tighter you clamp back here. Even if you have an even amount of blades in here, they're all the same thickness, the plates will still come apart because the only pressure you're applying is actually back here. It's not up here, it's right here. It's behind the actual plates. So then I would actually use the, I'll clamp them down tight, and then I'll use this clamp to make sure that they're level. Well, what that's resulted in is a no longer flat plate. It's not like bad enough to not use, but over time they're going to get unusable because they're just going to continue to bend and warp. But this system, so like the plates are on springs. You can see these little springs right here. I don't know if you can or cannot. Maybe you cannot. But there's little springs in here. And those allow this to go down evenly. I'm not positive on how long those springs are going to last before heat influence from 2,000-degree blades being put in between those springs is going to change the actual hardness of the springs, and then they might get uneven. Either way, they're easily replaceable. But when you press this set of plates together, all the force is applied directly to the center of the plates, and the first thing I did when I got this was pull it all apart and grease everything. I greased all these fittings and the bushings because they were dry, and I tried a little WD-40, but what ended up happening is some of them that were lubricated more than the others, those ones would glide smoother. If any of them bound up, then it would kind of hang up like right there. It's not a bad design. It just needed a little bit of TLC. So I greased everything, and I have not had any issues with it yet. I've done one round of plate quenching, one round of heat treating with the kiln and this, and I did it yesterday. It was the maiden voyage of the kiln. The kiln is a kiln, does kiln things, does the same thing as the last kiln, except this one's 22.5 inches deep, and it can just do a bigger blade. But as far as that goes, it's got a ramp master, just the same as this one. Well, this one's the Set Pro, but predecessor to the ramp master. They're the same thing, they do the same thing. The biggest difference is that plate setup, and it's really cool. What's up, Manny? How's it going? Yesterday when I did this, when I did 6 blades in there, Nitro V, I did these 2 Ramblers and the Revelation, and then I did the Mustang, the Hornet, and that Heritage. Those 6 blades is what I put through that plate yesterday. With the water-cooled system, I really got to test it out. It was really neat. After I pulled them out of the plates, which I'll say within about a minute, they were down around that, they were down below 100 degrees. And I've got a little laser thermometer here somewhere. But I had time enough to pull them out, set them on the bench, cut them free of their foil packets, their spent foil packets, and then put them into the cold plates that I use to cool these plates off. I just put them in between the cold plates to keep that temperature moving down, and then into cryo. But I had enough time to get them out of the foil packets, 3 blades out of the foil packets, and in between cold plates. By the time I turned it, that took about a minute. By the time I turned around, those plates were back down to about 80 degrees. It was instant. It was fantastic. And the best part about that is I didn't expend what cold plates I have to cool the plates down. I put another round in them, another 3 blades in there, quenched those, and within a minute after that, it was back down to that 80 degrees mark again. So this thing can run continuously. As long as you can feed that kiln with blades, it'll do it. That's pretty cool. And that's a biggie because I'm ready to get moving and start really cranking out a whole bunch more knives than I'm doing now, because I have some plans to change a little bit of my processes, more or less just to streamline them. Before Blade Show, I had talked about doing water jet. I don't see that happening because the lead time for water jet is stupid. It's stupid. And there's so many people using every water jet laser cutting company out there. Nobody's doing it. Hand blanking works to a degree. I use patterns just like this, and then I'll cut out my steel into from bar stock to smaller bar stock, and on goes the pattern. Scribe our pattern and drill our holes, yada yada, right? It takes up more time than I need it to, and the thing is, even though I've got it down pretty dang good, thousands of blades later, I still struggle with time, and I still struggle with getting them all exactly the same, which means then I have to do each and every single handle individually. Again, not a problem, but with the assistance of things like water jet, I mean, you could just have handle jigs set up where you don't have to drill each individual handle differently because they're all microscopically different. But I'm not going into water jet. I don't have $250,000 for a good machine, nor do I have the space or power to feed it. And I'm not sure that water jet's what I want to do as far as an in-house procedure. I have actually been looking at plasma tables, but I've got to get myself set up for that too. Something like that would make the process just so much more streamlined and easier to get ahead on blades. So my issue right now is that I get to a point where I have 80 blades on the table, then I spend the next few weeks doing drops and runs with those, and then by the time I'm ready to get moving again, I'm out of blades. I got to spend a week going through blades again. So hiring somebody to do blades the way that I'm doing them seems dumb when I could hire a machine. And that's what I'm going to do eventually, but not right now. It's going to be a little while. But I've got a pattern going for the Heritage. It's just a piece of junk steel. This is just galvanized mild steel is what it looks like. But this is going to be you can kind of see the lines. This is just a pattern for the Heritage. I'm going to run those. I'll probably do a run next week of those. I would like to. I wanted to do a run this week. I didn't ever get enough time over the past couple weeks to start them. So anyway, this is all the blades that I have left on my table. This was going to be a Signature Series kitchen knife, but the missus decided she needed it more than well, we mutually decided that we needed this more. So I'm going to finish this one and take it home, use it in the kitchen. It'll be a really nice meat cutting knife. I have a really, really nice chef's knife that I made this a good while ago. I wouldn't part with it. But anyhow, that's left on the bench, and this will kind of be there for a while until I'm ready for it, because those don't pay me. Anyway, I've got another Signature Series here. I didn't get to this one this week. I wasn't quite sure that I was ready to tackle this one. Again, I like to do the signature series when I have a free mind and I can get creative with them. And I did do that other signature series. It's a small one, so it shouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, that'll be another signature series. This thing's really cool. It's got a slight recurve and a big old clip point. Lots of curves. It's quite curvy. It's pretty cool. I forgot about these two. Steven offered or suggested that I did like a scrapyard series. These were scrap AEBL from a couple of kitchen knives that I had done. So like I forget what the damn name is, nor do I give a flying shit either. But the chef's knife size takes a lot of width in order to get your knuckles off of the board. You don't want your knuckles hitting before the blade on the cutting board. So it takes a 2.5 inch wide piece of steel in order for me to get a wide enough blade to make a nice chef's knife. And to do the handle, the handle's only going to be this wide, so I ended up cutting pieces out for the handle, and that's where those two little dudes came from. Still got some. This is AEBL. That's what I like. I like it because it's a little cheaper than Nitro V2, especially now. It's kind of stayed the same. Nitro V has gone up in price. But these guys were scraps out of that piece of steel. That'll be cool. These guys are cool. One's a little clip point. This one's kind of a clip point, mod clip. Pretty sweet. I forgot about them though. I actually took these to Blade Show and I put them in a little box with all my other little emergency stuff like screws and sandpaper and things like that. But I forgot about them. I just completely forgot they existed until I went through that box and I found them in there. So I don't know what I'm going to do with those. I still don't know. I don't have any desire to do more of them. But other than that, the only blades that I got left on my bench, I've got 2 Nitro V Adventures, a Nitro V Tribute, and 2 80 CRV2 Tributes. I set all of these aside, and I'm not going to touch them. I'm going to set them back and take them to Georgia Bushcraft. Both of those models are good options for a bushcrafter. So those are the ones that I want to show up with. Things like the Tribute, the Rambler, which I do have Ramblers going to as well. So anyway, rambling is what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take off. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you are new to the channel and you enjoy blabbing like this every now and then, sometimes I even do knife making stuff. Anyway, if you like that kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell will let you know when I'm going live again. And definitely hit that thumbs up. I would appreciate it. It helps the channel out big time. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all your support no matter how big or small. Have a good one.